So all that happened. WrestleMania happened, and then we got to the main event. And the main event is what we are here to discuss today. The main event is the main event of our podcast, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So we're going to pull up this list here. We're going to just kind of do a brief overview of the list to see where it ranks on the current list. I feel like we have a good structure, foundation of the list so far, so we're going to kind of branch out into modern day matches. I feel that's fair. We found 20 of the most obvious matches to rank.
That's right.
Now we're just going to add to that list, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a great idea.
There are no better 20 matches to start a list than the 20 that we have.
Yes, that is correct. And for our current list, so we're doing this. We're going to have a video of or a very fancy PowerPoint presentation up on YouTube, but we're going to kind of talk through it to make it easy to listen to as well.
This is what we'll be submitting to the board for official evaluation of our science.
For the Professional Wrestling Board of Scientists, this is our basically this is our dissertation of how we do things from now on.
And just to kind of give you the barometer here, the top three matches, we still have Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, unification match in Ring of Honor as our number one match, Atlantis versus La Sombra, Mask versus Mask, number two match from CMLL, and then Atsushi Onita and Hayabusa, the exploding barbed wire cage bomb death match, number three.
The very first match that we reviewed is still a top three match.
Still number three, yeah.
Still hanging in there.
Holding strong.
And then the bottom three, we've got this New Japan match. Toru Yano and Takashi Iizuka versus the Gracie Brothers. It's a terrible match.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I questioned whether Okada was the best wrestler in the world. We watched a New Japan match, and it was a piece of trash. So... yeah. How can Okada be the best in the world if he wrestles for a promotion that
for a trash
puts
company
forth a match that's this trash? Prove me wrong.
Yes. And to hang with the likes of New Japan Pro Wrestling, we got this WCW match, Harlem Heat versus Nasty Boys, number 19, and then dead last, Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle, the one and only, the Wet and Wild match. So we're gonna see where it falls into our list of 20 here. This triple threat match: Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch, and that's WrestleMania 35, April 7th, 2019. You can find that on the WWE Network or wherever your videos are located online. So I just kind of want to start out giving a nice little shout out, some praise here. It's the first ever women's WrestleMania main event, and it is actually history.
Yeah, this was the match to do it with.
Yeah, it's most of the history for WWE, like with the women's revolution stuff, is like kind of bullshit. But this one, it actually it felt like the women were the strongest part of WWE in 2018, at least in my opinion.
It felt organic. They were the most exciting program. I was more excited for this than, Bryan and Kofi kind of got there by the tail end, but that program kind of came out of nowhere. But Seth and Brock, I don't think was very exciting.
No, and yeah, the argument is, some people think that Kofi and Bryan should have been the main event, and maybe it would have been better.
Maybe in hindsight. But I still think you have this match. You just go for it. You pull the trigger. Yeah,
the Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston stuff came within the last month or two. Yeah. But this match has been building up since SummerSlam, if we're honest.
Yeah.
Actually, since the end of last WrestleMania, really. Yeah. It was Ronda Rousey had that first match. It was incredible. Then you're like, okay, great. Main event, Ronda Rousey versus, I thought, Asuka at the time. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Or Charlotte. It was what.
Yeah, Charlotte would have been the other one.
Then it was just some people were like, "Hey, what about Becky Lynch?" And then it just kind of built and built and built, and then SummerSlam happened, and Becky just obliterated Charlotte, and they tried to make her the bad guy, and the crowd was like, nope, we just want to cheer her forever and ever and ever. And then, fortunately, they finally were like, okay, we're going to turn Becky into the new Stone Cold, but not really, because she's not going to swear all the time and kick people in the dick and all that stuff, and all the stuff that Stone Cold did.
Yeah, it was like kind of a big deal. Maybe not anymore, but it felt like it was a big deal leading up into the match of, hey, this match should be Becky versus Ronda Rousey. Should it be a triple threat with Charlotte? And, I guess, it's too late to argue about it now, but I certainly think Charlotte was definitely worthy to be in this match.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about long-term storyline, like, Charlotte's been on top of the women's division throughout the entire Revolution, so it makes sense for her to be a part of the first ever main event.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Charlotte she just stands out so much. She's such a star that I'm fine with her being included in the first women's main event in WrestleMania history. I just think it makes all the sense in the world with her name, and with the fact that they've been pushing her for so long as the top woman star, next to Rousey since last year. And the fact that they had to build off that Asuka win from last year, because I think that was like a big deal, like her being the one to beat Asuka for the first time. So it's like, I don't like the idea of a triple threat match as your main event of WrestleMania. I do prefer singles matches, but I think in this case, I think it was the right call, honestly, especially with Rousey leaving seemingly now.
Or at least like taking a break for a bit.
Yeah.
It's like it was going to be like, yo, Rousey's going to leave because she wants to start a family. And then, like, more recently, like in the last week or so, we're like, Rousey's going to take a break for a while. And now that it came out that she suffered a broken hand in the match, and maybe that was,
she did take a break.
Yeah, ha ha ha. ha.
Yeah, it's in hindsight, I think it's seeming more and more like the right call to do the triple threat.
Yeah.
So the build of the match, oh boy. So the ideal way to build this match, just keep it simple, right? You have Ronda Rousey, she's a prize fighter. Everybody knows who she is. Obviously, she's going to ascend very quickly to the main event. You could argue she ascended too quick, and I might agree with you there, but she was eventually going to get there and be the champion. She was going to be undefeated.
And if you only have a year with her, you kind of have to accelerate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like the Goldberg build that they did.
Yeah.
When he came after WCW closed down
for a few years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, no, not when Goldberg was here a couple years ago, but when he
you mean
first
2002 or whatever?
Yeah,
okay.
2002. Like they were like, we have Goldberg for a year. Like if you listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast, they do like a whole episode on Goldberg and WWE, and he's like, we had him for a year. We had to do this, this, and this. And so, like, they basically kind of took that playbook, at least a little bit, and just put Ronda in that spot instead. Except they kind of made Ronda more invincible than Goldberg was when he was in WWE, kind of that first go-around.
Yeah, so you want Ronda to be the champion. You want to kind of build it around her, the main event. And, if you want to include Becky and Charlotte, find a reason for them to both fight the champion to be in the triple threat. And then you pay it off. Becky is, this stone cold figure right now. Becky beats Ronda. She gets the big push. Everybody goes home happy. The way WWE built this match was insanity, pretty much.
It was so much.
All right, here. I'm going to just read through how they built it. So, number one, Becky's leg is hurt. Then Becky refuses medical treatment.
Attacked.
Becky
Triple
gets
H.
suspended.
Becky attacks
Becky
Stephanie.
is medically cleared, and all the week
previously
lifted.
Vince
And
comes
Becky
out
was
and
all
like,
like
whoops,
because
suspensions
Ronda,
replaced
Triple H, and
Ronda
Stephanie. And during this time, also Becky attacks
and
her,
whoops that
and then
Triple
all of a
H
sudden
happens to
Ronda
take
is a
Becky
heel
attacks
and just
Stephanie
yelling at
WrestleMania
people.
and saying the word
And then
Vince.
it's like, I guess the police escorted her back to the arena after she was released.
When you get released from prison, they escort you back to your work environment. You didn't know that?
I've never been arrested, so I didn't know.
But yeah, that's 18 steps on how WWE built this match that they could have done in 4 steps.
But see, the problem is you need to fill all that TV time. You got 5 hours of TV to fill.
When you have
every
5
week.
hours a week, you need to fill time.
Yeah, and you got to start to build that Royal Rumble, so you got like a million shows that you got to figure out something for them to do in.
All right, so we're here. We're at the match. This is WrestleMania, the main event, and it's 7 hours into the show.
We're at midnight for those of us on the East Coast.
So, yeah, this match finally starts. We're finally getting entrances. The crowd is like dead, like completely dead before the like match starts. Like I was shocked at like how little of a response it sounded like Becky was getting when she was coming out.
Yeah, they're like trying to be. You could tell the crowd was trying to be excited, but they were just like couldn't muster the energy.
Yeah,
because there were a ton of the man signs that people were holding up and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, Joan Jett's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. Oh, but wait, first Charlotte flies into the arena in a helicopter.
Yes, in a helicopter.
Yeah, and she can't wink, but she tries.
Yeah, she's just giving weird side glances at the camera. Like, what are you trying to convey to me right now, Charlotte?
But yeah, the crowd is dead, but just want to give them props that like they were able to keep the crowd engaged throughout the match once that match actually got going, and that's saying more than let's say last year's WrestleMania where we had Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and that match was just a hellscape to watch.
But that was like the last like 4, right? Because it was Reigns and Lesnar, Reigns Triple H, Reigns Undertaker, and Reigns Lesnar again, right? Were the last 4, and all of those were like crowd turning on it, crowd not caring, crowd leaving, and this was at least like the crowd cared. The crowd definitely cared, but they were just like, listen, we're trying to give you all the energy we have, but we're dead. We don't have much left. So they woke up for some spots, but a lot of the match was pretty quiet.
Yeah, you've got to work with us, and we'll work with you.
Exactly, yeah.
Crowd's dead. They're able to have the attention of the crowd. The next highlight I want to point out is that, maybe a controversial opinion, but Ronda's awesome in this match.
I think so. Yeah, I think she was the best in the match.
Yeah, I think she was the best, and then I think Charlotte was number 2, and then it seemed like Becky was either cold a little bit, and that maybe
she was definitely off.
Like she still looked good and everything, but it seemed a little just a hair off, and it was just enough where you noticed it. And I think like all of them did really well, but you could tell more so with Becky over Charlotte and Ronda.
Ronda.
Yeah, just something was just like 1 degree off with her.
And the thing with Ronda is her pace is always so fast.
Oh yeah,
that probably throws off like Becky and Charlotte came up in the WWE system, and they're taught a certain pace when it comes to wrestling matches.
Right.
Ronda is completely off when it comes to that. She just goes, and she doesn't really allow for breathing room between spots. So that probably threw them off too.
Yeah, there was the moment where Ronda did that like running knee or something on Charlotte, and Charlotte just looked unprepared for it.
Yeah. I thought that was, I don't know if it was
that was at the end of the match. That looked awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
right at the end of the match.
It looked really cool, but it was also like, Charlotte kind of didn't seem ready for it.
Well, the first time they did that, like, I don't know if it was intended to be a shining wizard or something else, but the first time they did it, she did the knee, and then she did it again, but locked in a flying triangle. So I don't know if it was like she was intending to do the knee or screwed up and then was intending to do the flying triangle. She just goes and goes. So even when she screws up, or you think she might have screwed up, she's like on to the next spot anyway. So you don't have time to like process it.
And she took a number of like brutal bumps. Like, I don't know if it was just because like she was the one that was leaving. So it's like, fair game to do whatever you want to me.
Right.
Yeah. But like that apron bump.
That was the first big spot of the match was Ronda was going for like a double armbar on them, I believe, and they both, Becky and Charlotte, picked her up in a powerbomb and brought her over to the apron, and she, went for the armbar. Becky slipped out, and she ran and drop kicked Ronda, and she landed on the apron, but then she bounced off and landed like on her shoulders, it looked like, and her hips hit pretty hard the ground. And I'm wondering, like, I was watching it again today, and I was trying to look for when she broke her hand. Do you think that could have been when that happened? She lands really hard, but it didn't look like she landed on her hand.
Yeah,
it was either would be that she threw a lot of punches. It's hard to know if like I didn't, because I noticed when they did the double armbar spot and they brought her up into powerbomb, she had like one of her hands on Charlotte to like have some leverage, but her other hand was like in her chest. So it was definitely broken. Yeah. It was definitely broken by then.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure exactly what point it was. So another spot that was awesome was Charlotte was chopping Ronda.
Yes.
And like Ronda, the microphone was turned up on the ring, I guess, because you could hear a bunch of like called spots in the ring throughout the entire thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was like Ronda like getting chopped and like saying like, "You chop like a bitch, you chop like a bitch," and then like Charlotte just went like, "Oh yeah," and then she just chopped her right on the like right side of her forehead.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was brutal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. Let's see. There was other moments. There was a table in the ring, and like Ronda was just like really into like just yelling "bitch" the entire night, and like she just said something like, "Only bitches use tables," and like she flipped it over.
It was. I do want to talk about the use of the table a little bit, because I think it was ultimately did not work, because originally they brought the table in. Becky brought the table in, which woke the crowd up because this is pretty late into the match.
Because it's a table. Like these guys are killing themselves in the ring. Crowd's there, but not really. And then they bring a table out, and Pavlovian dogs. Yeah. Crowd goes nuts for a table.
And they teased a Charlotte moonsault to Becky, but that got broken up. And then they teased Becky powerbombing Charlotte through the table, but Ronda broke that up, and that's when she flipped the table and said tables are for bitches. But then later they finally did the table spot where they put the table in the corner, and Charlotte rushed both of them for a spear, and they kind of did a double hip toss to her, but they didn't catch her properly, and she didn't really flip and get much height and momentum. So she just kind of hit the bottom of it, and it barely broke, and it ended up being like really unsatisfying. And even the crowd was chanting one more time, but they never came back to it, and that was it. I think that was a lost opportunity, and they probably should have just like either tried something else after that, or they should have just done the moonsault or the powerbomb, and that would have been a lot more satisfying, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody should have audibled and picked up Charlotte, and then did like, "You're going through this time," and then just really tossed her through it. But unfortunately, they didn't. Yeah.
I mean, as we said, all the tables got together and were like, "We're not breaking."
Yeah. A lot of this match was like Becky going for the disarmer, Charlotte going for like the figure 4, the figure 8.
Yeah.
Rousey going for arm bars and using your hip tosses and her that Piper's Pit move. She's kind of like spammy with her moves. She's like Lesnar in that regard, where she
really reminds me of Lesnar a lot. Like she does like awkward selling, but it looks really effective, like compared to like most other wrestlers. And then like the start of the match, she used her finishing moves, so it really reminds me of Lesnar, the way kind of she is approaching matches.
Yeah.
Let's move on, and we just kind of want to talk about the sloppy style, which is there's a lot of people on the internet that look at these women main event matches and are like, "Oh, they're not technically proficient. All their moves look sloppy," and it's like, no, it doesn't look like they're as coordinated as the men, but it looks more effective to me.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it sloppy. I would call it just like strong. It's kind of strong style like a little bit like we see in New Japan, where they're just like beating the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like this match, like I really enjoyed how this match was just a million miles an hour from the word go. There was no breaks. And I think because like on this card, we saw a bunch of different styles of matches. And I think this was just one of those different styles where this is just a match that's going to be shot into your fucking eyeballs and just obliterate your brain. And unfortunately, a lot of people took that as they're just being sloppy rather than they're just going as fast as they can, as strong as they can.
And it looks like more of a fight. Like, these girls are like, women are like, they had that big brawl where they were all arrested. Like, it would be weird to have them, do headlocks on each other.
Yeah.
And do like your standard, like, reversal into a hammerlock. Like, no, this is going to be a fight. This is the main event. So they went for it, and I appreciate it. All right. Is it time to get into it?
Yeah, I'm gonna real quick also shout out another spot that I liked a lot, which was when Charlotte did the figure 4 around the turnbuckle post to Rousey. I thought Rousey was selling really well. She was really acting like he was killing her, and I just thought that's incredible athleticism and flexibility by Charlotte to be able to pull that off around the turnbuckle like that.
Spanish fly.
And the top rope Spanish fly from Charlotte to Becky was really good. And that was another one that really woke up the crowd, even though it was pretty late into the match. So kudos for that. Charlotte's awesome. She does such cool stuff. And yeah, I was a little disappointed by Becky's performance. Something was definitely off. And I don't think she was, although she did look awesome, like her hair was coming undone throughout the match. And it was just like frizzy and huge. That looked awesome. Like she looked really cool like that. But I think, especially with the ending, which we'll get into, I think that really made her look like not the star that she should have been in this match.
All right. You said the ending, so let's get into it. I wrote the headline on this next slide, so it's not your opinion, it's my opinion. This kind of was it smarmy way that I wrote this, but the person I wanted to win didn't win good enough. I'll let you. I feel like the universal opinion is that they hated the roll-up win.
I hated.
So I'll let you go ahead and start.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad idea for. Okay, so if Ronda is staying and you do another match a month later or at SummerSlam or whatever, even then I still think this is a bad idea to do at WrestleMania. Like, I really believe that this is your biggest show of the year. This is your main event. There should be a definitive ending, especially when you're positioning someone like Becky to be this huge star, this double champion, this person who has like fought and clawed their way to get to this position. You shouldn't have them winning on a fluke, even if it is with, Ronda Rousey, who you've also positioned as like this unbeatable, like real, quote unquote, real fighter. I think it should have ended with Becky just getting a pin. And I've heard the argument that you don't want to submit Ronda Rousey because that's not like realistic enough, because again, she's never submitted in MMA. I don't buy that at all. Like,
I don't believe that argument either.
Yeah, I think
that's a dumb argument to make.
I honestly think it should have been a submission. I think she should have got the disarmer. I think she should have reversed a Rousey armbar into the disarmer and tapped her out. And I think that would have been extremely satisfying. I think the crowd would have been super hot into it, and it would have just made Becky like look so good coming out of WrestleMania as having definitively defeated Ronda and Charlotte in the process. And that way you could set her up as the big star and have her, defend, have her have a nice long reign until like SummerSlam or later in the year. And that's a really satisfying WrestleMania moment. I just think doing the fluke win and also compounding that with this idea that Ronda's shoulders were actually up, which I'm still not clear if that was like intentional or not, or if it was just something the commentators were called because they're supposed to call it like it's real. I just think, it just was flat. The crowd wasn't expecting it. It wasn't built up to very well. I've ranted long enough. I didn't like it. How about you, Owen?
I'll kind of pick up, like, because when I watched it last night, it was 11:30 at night here in Kansas City, and I had to get up in 6 hours, so I was both quite tired and just kind of weird. And then, because when it happened, I was looking at my phone, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, Becky's holding the titles. Wait, the match is over? It felt like I wasn't upset at how Becky won. I was upset that it came out of nowhere. Because it seemed like they were building, and then they didn't have the ending sequence. Because like normally when you watch a wrestling match, it builds and builds and builds, and then you go into the ending sequence. And the ending sequence it can vary in length and time that it takes to get to the very end and the pin, but there's always stuff that builds up to that point. And it seemed like there was the build, and then they just went right to the end, and there was no end sequence to get us to the end. And so that was the part that I was upset about last night. And then I rewatched it this afternoon, and I still didn't like how quickly it seemed it ended, but I also wasn't crazy tired when I was watching it today, and it seemed a little better, at least how it ended to me. And then I was reading a bunch of things about like what happened, why did Ronda raise her shoulder, and one of like the biggest thing that I saw across kind of the wrestling news, I'll say quote unquote news sites, was that they were talking about how Ronda just hadn't been pinned really at all. And so she was so used to like raising her shoulder whenever she heard like the two.
I don't believe that at all.
That's just what happened. And I don't know if that's true or not, but
I don't know where you read that.
But it's I saw it on like I saw it at
Call them out.
I saw it on With Spandex, and I think I saw it on Cage Side Seats as well. And since those are kind of aggregator sites, they got it from somewhere else. Like
I don't think you need to be trained to lay down for 3 seconds.
I saw a lot of like different people saying different things too. So it's like I just think everyone has an idea of what happened. It's just theories.
Yeah, my personal theory is that like Ronda was being rolled up. She was afraid that she was going to roll too much, so she kind of adjusted with her neck a little bit, and that caused her shoulders to go up. That's just how I feel it happened.
Yeah, and I also saw that maybe it was because her hand was broken, and however she was being pinned somehow caused weird pain to shoot, so that caused her to involuntary move. And that may have been a little bit as well. So I'm not sure.
So my opinion was, I initially thought that this was obviously leading to a one-on-one match in the next pay-per-view, since like the original story was like Ronda, she might stay a little while after Mania and then leave. And that idea immediately kind of was shot down. So my opinion kind of changed a little bit. But I still do like the roll-up victory, because so when you think about it in long term and in short term, like within this match, it makes sense. I don't know if they explained it that well, or if maybe Ronda could have like took a little bit more time doing it.
But didn't even have time to explain it, even if they wanted to, because they went off the air so quick.
But anyway, the way it logically makes sense is that Ronda was picking Becky up for the whatever her move is. Yep. What's her move called?
Piper's Pit.
The Piper's Pit, and her knee buckled, and that was set up because Charlotte did the figure 4 on her on the ring post and in the middle of the ring. So Ronda was having a lot of trouble with her knees ever since then, and her knee buckled. That caused Becky to get leverage and roll her up for a flash roll-up pin, and I think that's the explanation for it that way. The match length, it was 21 want to say it was 21 and a half minutes, so it wasn't like it was a short match. I feel like, yeah, the finish kind of came out of nowhere, and maybe you could have held it off for a submission victory there. But also thinking long term, if Ronda does come back, you can have the rematch with Becky Lynch. And boy, in the rematch, if they do that same flash pin again and she kicks out of it, that's going to be just a huge moment. Like, the entire stadium's going to erupt when that happens for the fake out pin in the rematch.
Mm-hmm. I guess in hindsight, if like a year from now they do Becky versus Ronda at WrestleMania, and that's when they do a submission finish or a pin or something, then maybe you could say long term it was justified. But I still think you could have, even if the idea is, hey, we want to hold off on a submission win till later, you still do a definitive pin tonight, and then later on do the submission.
I still think it would have been like, it's just unfortunate that her shoulders went up.
Yeah.
Then you would have had like a legitimate pinfall happen, and it wouldn't be like this, like, she kind of, everybody says she botched it. I think, like, obviously her shoulders were up, but did commentary really need to point that out? Did they really need to show a replay of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, but if it was a mess up, then it does naturally lead to a rematch. So there's at least that route you can go with whenever Ronda does come back. Yeah, it's just, at the end of the day, like, everybody wanted to see Becky Lynch win at WrestleMania, the first ever women's main event, and that's what WWE gave you. So could she have won with an armbar? Yeah, would that have been better? Probably. But I don't think the flash, out of nowhere roll up is a bad thing. That's just my argument.
Yeah, I suppose we'll see in the long term.
Mm-hmm. All right, I've said my piece. Everybody has different opinions.
We'll leave it up to the listener to decide.
Yes.
What was it, the right call or not?
But we're also going to have to decide, because we're going to have to rank this list.
Yes.
Rank this list.
Gotta rank this match. Well, I will rank this list right now. This is the best list I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
This is the best ranking of wrestling matches list ever,
bar none. Yeah.
Yes,
that's right.
So let's add to this list. Like, we always start at the WLC match.
Where's the WLC? Oh, there it is, number 10, right in the middle.
Smack dab in the middle. Right in the middle.
Yeah. So I overall like this match. I think it could have been better. But I did like it more on the second, when I watched it the second time, because I wasn't so tired.
Yeah, same.
So I did end up liking it, and I think that maybe start Necro Butcher Samoa Joe.
Yeah, I think that's about.
That might be where it lands, honestly.
Okay, well,
yeah, I would say it's above Necro Joe. If we're saying start at Necro Joe, I would put it above Necro Joe.
Okay.
Is where I would have it.
I would... Let's see. All right, so I feel like I would definitely put it above Ric Flair and Sting.
Yeah,
I would too, yeah. Which is ironic. Because there's been kind of that theme the past few days of Ric Flair, like saying, Charlotte has superseded him. And now here we are cementing that in this scientific list.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the proof. She has surpassed her father.
Yeah.
It's the one true scientific list.
Yeah.
Sting versus Charlotte Flair's father is underneath this match.
Exactly.
No, she's Ric Flair's daughter. That's how we need to identify her. Oh, also, that was brought up in the WWE Chronicle, and Charlotte hated it. Oh man!
Which
she was so mad when they did that interview on ESPN and Ronda was there and Becky was there and Charlotte was there. They identified Charlotte as Ric Flair's daughter.
Oh, I didn't.
And they identified Becky as the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble winner. They identified Ronda as like the UFC champ and stuff. and Charlotte was so pissed. And,
I would be pissed too.
And like I was. Yeah.
You didn't see that tweet that Ric Flair put out, was it yesterday, I guess? saying that Ric Flair is now identifying as Charlotte Flair's father. So that's where that came from, I guess.
Yeah, he basically said, listen, Charlotte Flair has now surpassed me being in this main event, and I am now Charlotte Flair's dad.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really nice, really touching. Ric Flair as a proud father is a pretty awesome thing.
Oh my God. He was, so they had the WrestleCon show on Thursday, and they were like waiting on an ambulance to get there just to like have an ambulance on site.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's something that they need to do in New York.
Yeah.
So they just brought out Ric Flair, and he came to the ring, and he was cutting a promo for a little bit, and then he finally got around to mentioning Charlotte. Immediate tears.
Yeah.
That dude is a sensitive dude when it comes to his children, obviously.
He's just a sensitive dude in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Ric Flair.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me happy to see him happy because he's had a rough past few years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm still glad that Ric Flair is among us, and hopefully he will be with us for many years to come.
Yes. He looked pretty sprightly.
He looked really good last night.
When he came out during the Batista Triple H match for a brief moment there. He was sounding good. He sounded like Ric Flair yelling at Batista. That made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Necro
Butcher and Samoa Joe.
It's
versus this match. It's so Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe is just such a guilty pleasure of mine. Like that match lasts 12 minutes maybe, and it's just a car collision for 12 minutes.
Yeah, people love that match, man.
And it's tough to put it over that match.
How did I'm trying to understand how we did not put that above Suzuki and Mecha Mummy.
I think I stood my ground on Suzuki Mecha Mummy.
Was that you?
I love Suzuki Mecha Mummy.
Because I would put this above Suzuki Mecha Mummy, but maybe not above Butcher Joe. But because we have the list in this order, then it would have to go below both.
Yeah, it's cemented. We can't change this list at all. So that's non-negotiable.
Well, this list is scientifically true.
I am not proposing that we alter the list. I know my boundaries when it comes to this list.
Okay, so I mean, I know I just argued that I liked the finish, but the finish was weak in this match according to y'all. I will stand by that. The finish to Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe is a masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
Joe
true.
just murdering him is pretty definitive. The opposite of this finish. It was definitive and it was satisfying.
It is the most definitive.
Yes.
But I don't know. Because it's a better, just like when I just think, oh, pro wrestling match. This is a better pro wrestling match. But Butcher and Joe more exciting, tighter, kind of more stunts, with Butcher just like taking massive damage on his face and neck, over and over again. But I mean,
Ronda broke her hand in this match.
Yeah, she took
doing
a bad
something.
fall. That's true.
And she got like cuts all over her legs too. So Ronda was put through the meat grinder in this match, pretty much.
Charlotte's elbow got busted open somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea how that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that last night, but I saw it today. I was like, wait, Charlotte got busted open on her elbow?
Yeah. So I guess we're going to lean into democracy here. I'm saying Necro Butcher and Joe stays at number 6. You say it goes above number 6, Chris. So Owen, I guess you kind of have the deciding factor here.
I would say it goes above Necro Joe.
Wow. Okay.
I would say it becomes our new number 6.
Okay. I won't fight too much, but yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that feels right. It's just so weird to me to be above that but below Suzuki versus Mecha.
Now Suzuki versus Suzuka. I keep saying Suzuka. Suzuki versus Mecha Mummy is just like a pinnacle of comedy matches.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of that, like the bottom of our. We're getting to the point where we're slowly building tiers.
Yes.
And I feel that Suzuki Mecha Mummy is the bottom of our top tier.
Yes.
Like
Suzuki versus Mecha Mummy, also a very definitive finish.
Yes. Very definitive.
Murdered a robot. That
Yes.
is as definitive as you get.
He murdered a mechanized mummy.
Yeah, I just always feel bad when we put stuff above Butcher and Joe, because I know people are way into that match, and there's just something about it that I'm missing.
It is, in 2019, it is a step too far in violence for most people. And, you know, honestly for me too, like, it's hard to watch Necro Butcher literally in a pool of his blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the new number 6 being the main event of WrestleMania 35. That is Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch.
First women's WrestleMania main event.
Yes.
History was made. All right. I feel like it's time to wrap it up here. We teased last time CM Punk versus... actually, we didn't tease it at all. I think we just said John Cena and moved on. So
we did.
The idea was to do CM Punk versus John Cena. I think we're...
From Money in the Bank 2011.
Yes.
But that's being pushed to next episodes. Episode 20.
Yes.
Episode 20.
Oh man, that's a good even number to put that match at. So I feel excited to talk about that match because it's a darn good one if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've watched it, so I'm excited to watch it again.
That was a match that got a lot of people back into wrestling.
Oh yeah,
that angle in particular.
I mean,
yep.
it kind of helped to bring me back a little bit, so I'm excited.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys for joining me. Owen and Chris, thank you guys. And I'm Derek, and so long. See you next time on the best match ever.
Ever.